Om Sri Sai Ram. Today we are really blessed. We have an eminent speaker with us today. It's time for me to introduce our speaker for the day. Today we have Professor Sudhir Bhaskar sir with us. Professor Sudhir Bhaskar, he studied in Madras Christian College and he holds a bachelor's degree from REC Warangal. He is a MTech from prestigious Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Madras. He received a fellowship in management from the Indian Institute of Management, IIM Bangalore. Professor Bhaskar is the former director of Prashant Nilayam campus of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. He was also been the head and dean of business management department at the SSIHL with over and consulting experience. He is the author of over 45 publications in peer-reviewed national and international journals. Professor Bhaskar received the Outstanding Achievers Award and Certificate of Excellence in Teaching by the India International Friendship Society in New Delhi. Professor Sudhir Bhaskar comes from a family of ardent devotee of Bhagavan. He has his first darshan of Bhagavan in late 1950s and had his interview with Swami in 1971. He joined the organization SSO India in 1977 and as a Sevadal served in Gujarat, Karnataka, and in the combined Andhra Pradesh state. Uh, Swami himself has performed his merits in 1979 and he has participated in many service projects under the divine guidance of Swami. Uh, it is very notable to know he has served Bhagwan in various locations in the past and most importantly he has served as Swami's personal assistant for many years. He is blessed to serve Swami as the director of Radio Sai division of the Sri Sathya Sai Central Trust and is currently heading the director of Sri Sathya Sai Center for Human Values. So we have such an eminent speaker with us today to discuss with us on value-centered leadership. So without wasting much time, I would request Sir to address us, to guide us, and to interact with our NLP participants. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chinmay. Before we have Professor Sudhir Bhaskar Garu online, I take this privilege to invite him personally on my own behalf. He's been very kind to agree to this short notice of asking him to talk to our participants. On behalf of the All India President, Sri Nimish Pandya ji will also be joining this call shortly. He's on another call with the national team right now. So welcome to this session. We look forward for your inputs. I'm sure the participants who are attending this session will value a lot the inputs that you're going to share with us. Thank you, sir, and welcome to this session.
Sai Ram. Thank you, Gopi and Chinmay, for your introduction. And I think, no, don't raise so much of expectations in the minds of the participants. For a simple reason. Except that, no, I've been condescended to give this talk. Am I the right person to be qualified is what you will be a judge at the end of my talk. Having said this, next slide. I would like to welcome the participants, ladies and gentlemen, to this particular Sri Sathya Sai National Leadership Program. I'm calling you all ladies and gentlemen, though many of you are almost all of you can be qualified as boys and girls compared to what my age is. Will have children, grandchildren of your age. Nevertheless, for this session. You're all ladies and gentlemen for me. Okay, before I start, I'd like to offer myself and on behalf of all the participants and all those guests who have been invited to this particular session, offer ourselves at Thy Divine Lotus Feet, Bhagwan, with a prayer, a humble prayer. Bhagwan, please hold our hands, each of our hands, and guide us, lead us, take us on the path you have chosen for each one of us on a spiritual journey, so that we are able to reach the destination, that is Thy Divine Lotus Feet. Sai Ram. Next slide. Before I embark on giving this talk, I like to have a caveat. Since I've come almost at the end of the year-long program, and I've seen that the various speakers for various sessions, including the eminent guest speakers who have addressed all of you, many of the speakers have been our students of the institute, and of them, quite a few of them have been my own students. I am very proud to mention that many of them who have reached illustrious performance levels and achievements have been very good students during their college days. I am very proud of them for their way they are performing, the way they are taking care, the way they are participating within the societies, projects and programs of the Sathya Seva organization. Another thing I would like to mention right at the beginning is the three words in this particular title are oft repeated statements or words used by various speakers. They would have said a lot of things about each one of them. There is a possibility that I may mention few things which are not in congruence with what they have already said. The reason is I am going to look at these particular terms and together these three terms from different facets, aspects, which actually enrich our role both as an individual and also as a professional in the society. So from that particular angle, please take my talks, or the talks which you are going to listen, and some of the aspects which are being mentioned are in addition to what the others would have said. We are all very familiar with that, blind man and the elephant, and each one talked about certain aspect. But the totality is not that each one of them they have talked. The synergy among all those inputs which you have got was the one which is describes an elephant. So by the end of this particular program, which is going to be, I think, by next month or so, this is going to come to completion. You've got different inputs. Please try to look at the synergy among all those inputs which you have received, and that possibly, hopefully, gives you the whole picture holistically, which you can actually use it in your own lives. Having said that, I think I'll proceed. Next slide. What is this talk all about? There are three words which have been put together, and possibly some of the words have been used differently from what conventionally people use. I would like to mention what is going to be covered in this particular talk. Continue. This talk is all going to be about, next, continue, leaders who lead their ship focused on human values with certain, continue, leadership skills and styles. Please look at these highlighted words. leaders who lead the ship. That means they just don't issue orders and stay back in some AC room or in some ivory towers. They're in the front. Ship, either in your personal life or professional life, focused on human values. That's where you'll find often they would have used value-centered leadership as a program. Whereas in my case, I had used the word values. There's a big difference. I look at it from a different angle in these two words. Value, the way it is conventionally read in journals and books and talks by eminent people, or secular values which they are talking about. Whereas in our spiritual endeavor, if you see, our values are all human values. Manavata Viluvalu, Swami calls it. Manavata Viluvalu. Now, the basic difference between what you would have seen in secular values is you will find the same terms which are being used in that and in this particular human values also. Love is there, here also is there. Then no, opportunities are here. So many of them are going to be compassion, will be in both. So you'll find, but there, all of them are distinctly separate. Whereas when it comes to human values, it is holistic together. The synergy among all these elements together gives you what is called Manavata Viluvalu, as Swami puts it. The human values, the humanness of an individual which is necessary to come out, the values which are actually represented, which a public is able to see, are going to be the difference. And leadership also, as I put it, we are going to look at it slightly differently from what conventionally everybody looks at leadership, and basically they focus on leadership styles and factors and key successful activities and those things that are the focus. Whereas Swami's focus on leadership is totally different. I'm quite sure, I think I was told that no, you already have been given the book which is written by Major General Chibber, Lieutenant General Chibber, and it's called as Sri Satya Mahavakyas on Leadership. I think the book is already there, and as part of reading list, I had mentioned that no, you all should have read that particular foreword which is written by Bhagwan, and also an article which was written by Bhagwan for 1980 Golden Age. It was actually, and it's called chapter Character of Life, as the title was as it given. See, if you go here, I'm quite sure, I believe that all of you have already gone through it. I'm going to focus on what Swami has been talking about, those aspects which are necessary for this particular leadership program, both in terms of the values as well as what is going to be the content of your leadership. So these two together are the ones which is going to be unique from other programs you would have found, which is Harvard and others are going to offer, and the variation is going to be hopefully by the end of the day, by the time I reach the end of my talk, you would possibly have got assimilated what actually we are trying to communicate in this particular program. Next slide. So we'll start. Who is a leader? When do we say a person is a leader? Because he is going to lead. If he's going to lead, we should know who this particular person is going to be. Continue. Person who leads or commands a group, an organization or a country purposefully. The highlighted word here is the leader does all these activities with a purpose, and that purpose should be very clear, very clearly communicated, one, to the people whom he is going to lead. And once that communication takes place, then the people who follow him or who are part of the team know how to execute it. And I'm going to give quite a few illustrations how this is being done, and I'll give examples of people from mythology to current day common people who are actually able to practice it. So that's what going to be my effort. Continue. Next. Then looking at this, next, a person who has been a good follower can only become a good leader. This is Bhagwan's statement, and you will not find it so easily in any other particular literature. Swami has said, if I want to become a good leader, at some point I should have been a good follower. If only if I have been a good follower, then I know how to lead the team, how I can lead this particular group. Without being follower, if somebody brings me and puts me on top of the unit of the organization or somewhere else, or asks me to lead without any experience, and you know how disastrous all these things can be, and enough examples are there for all of us. So it is very essential. So if you look at this particular, communication is the one which is going to be the one which is going to be important, which people learn when they are part of as a follower. So unless you have been a good follower, you know that now how communication has to be given to me, what aspects have to be given to me, which will make me be a good follower. Then I know when time comes, when I lead, I know what to and how to do this, all these things. I'll give a few illustrations from our own mythology to start with. Please pay close attention to it. There are 3 instances from Ramayana I would like to quote. Please go back. Go back. Just be here for a few minutes. And the order in which it has been mentioned, but possibly I'll change the sequence. Sita and Hanuman. When Hanuman is sent by Lord Ram, to search, he finally reaches Lanka and searches almost the whole night and is not able to find. At the end, especially if you listen to or read Sundarakanda, beautiful description has been, especially Valmiki's. In that one, finally he says that he goes to that Ashoka Vanam, and there under a tree she is seated, and he sits on top of one of the other trees to overlook and see and try to identify, is this lady who is there in the tree in that type of a situation, is she the same description of what Lord Rama has mentioned? Because he's seen so many ladies and he couldn't make out whether they are Sita or not. But here he finds a different person. So, and we know the rest of the story, what happens. At the end of it, when Sita is convinced that Hanuman is not an impostor but a genuine person who has been sent by the Lord, please understand what has happened. Lord has said, go, see, and then come back. His instructions are very clear. What does Hanuman do? At the end, seeing the plight of the mother, he becomes emotional. And he volunteers saying, Mother, why don't you sit on my back? I'll take you back to where Lord Ram is, so that all the problems, difficulties you are facing now can easily be overcome. Just for a second imagine if Mother Sita would accept it and go, what would have been the rest of the story of Ramayana? Now please understand, I am not degrading Hanuman, please understand. I'll tell you something else which is important now. The thing is, Hanuman wanted to see whether he is able to enhance the character or the glory of Mother Sita. That was his intention, not to take Mother Sita back. And what does Sita respond? Mother says, no. Of course, she gives a bahana, some excuse. Hey, you're such a small, and if I sit halfway through the sea itself, you're going to drop me. But she says, no. You go and inform Lord, and he will come and rescue me. There are so many ways of understanding this, from leadership angle, from management angle, for any particular angle. A few of them I'll mention, but let me also cover the other 2. Together we'll try to look at. Now, one small exercise for you all the participants. At the end of these 3, I'll ask you a question. I'll give you half a minute for you to answer that and write down on your own in your books, which are having hopefully a pen and pencil, paper you are going to have. Note it down. And then I will tell you what I feel is the way to understand these 3 instances which I'm going to communicate to you. The second one is Angada in Ravana's court. Before that, okay, let me come Hanuman Sugriva. The second one is Angada and Ravana. After all the people reach, all the Vanaras, Ram, Lakshman, Vibhishna, all of them reach the shores of Sri Lanka. They put up their tent and ready for the war. As a last gesture of peace to find out if these things can be resolved amicably, what Lord Rama says, no, we'll send a person, just an emissary to find out whether it can be resolved amicably without going to have bloodshed. Pardon? So then what happens is they choose Angada. And we all know the story of what happened in Angada, and he goes. Now I want you to understand this particular incident which happened. Angada puts his foot and says that, no, if anybody can move this particular leg, let me see. What are you all talking about? You think you are so great, you can do anything to us? We are here to defeat all of you. And nobody is able to move his foot, even by a fraction. Then finally Ravana gets up to come and do it. At that time, Angada takes off his leg and says, no, you don't touch my legs. Go and catch the feet of Lord Rama. Then you'll get salvation, not here. Got the point? We all know the story. Now I want to ask a question. Why did Angada take off his leg? What is the communication which was sent? And what is he trying to prove to the audience who are there in Ravana's court? And did he achieve it? And how did he do that? Second one. Third one, this is again during the war it happens. And during the war what happened was very simple. When Kumbhakarna is woken up and sent to the war by Ravana, he comes and looks around. And those days the headgear, the crown which they have on their head, depicts the stature or the rank of that individual. He looks around and just to encounter him, Sugriva, Hanuman, Jamwan, Angada, everybody runs just to counter him because such a huge personality and he was creating mayhem on the field. Then suddenly he sees that Ravana sees that this Kumbhakarna sees this person and said, hey, if I take this particular one who seems to be the head of the entire organization of the king, then the war is almost over. I can take him back to the court as trophy. All of you know the story also. Now, what I am just saying is from the talk which was delivered by Right Honorable Srinivas Shastri, an eminent personality, and he gave a series of talks in Chennai, those is Madras, I think it was 1974 or so. And 14th talk is about Sugriva, because he talks about Ramayana. Talks on Ramayana, but the thing is, he doesn't narrate Ramayana story. He chooses the individual's characters to communicate this story. So when he talks about Sugriva, he says that when Sugriva is being put under the arm and he is being taken back, one of the things people were asking is they were rushing to rescue him. At that time, Hanuman stands and stops everybody from going forward. Just for a second think, king is in trouble and you as followers, you should keep quiet or go and rescue him. Got this point? If this is a situation you are going to go through, then look at what has happened. And what happened is very simple. He stops. I said, don't worry, everything will be all right. And Sugriva saw, and then he plays a trick, and then goes up to the nose and bites it, and with his claws he tries to scratch the ears. Out of frustration, Kumbhakarna just lifts his arm to take care of that particular nuisance. The moment he lifts his arm, Sugriva jumps out and comes back. There's something else which happens. The point which people asked Hanuman is, why did you do this? Or you also think about what is the answer Hanuman would have given for this particular incident. Now look at these three. Each one of them, there was a role to be played and all the three are in a situation of as a follower. So communication from the Lord must have been such they knew exactly what is to be done. Okay, I'll stop. I'll not continue that. Just write it down. Keep it with you. And some other point, because I think we are short of time. I'll continue, and then we'll see at some point. I'll come back and give reference to what the answers to this is. Next slide, please. Then we are talking about leadership. Continue. Leadership is a process of social influence in which one person can enlist the aid and support of others in accomplishing a common task. Leadership is that. We now know what leaders, and then we are talking about leadership. That means what is the role of the particular leader? Because he says it's a purposeful purpose. They're going to purposefulness. That means there's going to be a purpose. So for that particular accomplishment of that particular purpose, to enlist the requirements of the people. Okay. Point is very simple. We are all very fascinated to use adjectives to the words. Okay. So let us use an adjective to this particular word also, and that adjective is effectiveness. Effective leadership, let us say we are talking about. This is the general statement. If you want to be an effective leader, and what should the type of leadership you should have? Next slide. Next slide. Effective leadership is the ability to successfully integrate and maximize available resources within the internal and external environments of the attainment of organization's social goals, societal goals. And the term here is integrate and maximize. Now the thing is, in current day terms, what's the situation? Has the situation changed? Continue. Next slide. The word maximize. Maximize available resources. Wait. Maximize available resources is what you are talking about. To accomplish, if I am going to get more and more and more from outside, we don't have unlimited resources for everybody to achieve things. So that things have not changed, and the change is, continue, is a new philosophy which has come up, which has been vogue for quite some time. Next, continue please. Is a term which is called maximalize. And this is homework for you. Please search what's the difference between maximize and maximalize. And in this is what you now find the effectiveness of the leadership role which is going to be played in the society. Next line. Next slide. We are talking leadership. Whom are we providing the leadership? To our followers, isn't it? Now, is there different types of things which is necessary, and what is the new way which is going to be most effective or most desirable leadership styles or requirements? This is what you are going to fulfill. Continue. Next slide. You can lead a horse to water but can't make it drink is what is the thing which is very popular. That means if we are going to have set up people team, I can lead them to a particular point, but how do I make them work for which they have been enlisted? Okay, versus the next one. Continue. Is a new paradigm. You have to take a horse to the river and make it drink water, make it like it, finally make it feel that it has done all on its own. And lastly, persuade the horse to take other horses to the river and repeat the same, which is the real process of the leadership. Now just see the difference between the first and the second one. When we said that no, we have to lead the team, that leading means what is this? These are the requirements which you have to fulfill when you are talking about leading the team. In this one, you can say, make it like it. Make it feel that it is done on its own. And not only that, make it to bring others also to do the same thing. What a fantastic way it has been put, you just see. And that is the situation. Next. Okay, this is somewhere or other you'll find in some books or the other. Now let's go back to what Swami actually has said. Next, please. This I have taken from the Mahavakya, from that particular extract from the book, and mostly from the statements, the couple of slides which you're going to see from now on are from that particular foreword which Swami himself has written. I was actually there in the veranda when this particular incident took place, when the discussion was taking place between General Chibber and Bhagwan on this particular book and the inputs which are provided both outside and inside the interview room to him. And he had made a request, Swami, please write. And he wrote and gave. So one is being used as the foreword, the other is called epilogue, then at the end it has been put. But I'm going to concentrate on the first part, which is that one. Okay, next slide, please. Bhagavan says, one aspirant to be leader has to possess 3 types of knowledges. One is self-knowledge, and that is knowledge of his strengths and weaknesses. Now, how does he know his strengths or weaknesses? Being a good follower is the time at which you are able to evaluate yourself, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. Having identified, and if you are able to work on those particular strengths and improve it, and also work on those weaknesses and overcome them, is now you're in a position to become a leader. So when you become a leader, you must know, you must have your own knowledge of your strengths and weaknesses. Thereby you know what you are going to set as a purpose, what is the goal you are going to set, and how you are going to achieve, and how you are going to communicate that particular requirement to the everybody else who is going to follow you. That's the purpose which you need to have this particular knowledge. And the second is relating to his field of work. What's the domain in which you are going to work? You must have knowledge of that particular one. I'm not saying you should be an expert, but you should have knowledge. And the third and most important one is knowledge of the social environment. That's what Swami called Desakala Paristiti. You must be able to know, and those, I think somebody must have already talked to you about the manager definition. In the manager definition, there's a particular one which talks about nature of nations. MANAGRN stands for nature of nations. And that's the focus. If you are not aware of that, what I am from, say, India, and I go and try to work in Japan, I can't do the same way I do it in India. I should know Desakala Paristiti of that environment or social environment of that particular one. Same, somebody is working in Japan, if he wants to go and work in Germany or in Paris and France, they're different. Please understand this. And that's and to be successful, you must be aware of these things. Then only you'll become successful. Next slide, please. Now here are a few things which I would like you to understand. First, just wait. Let the once more. Just wait. A good leader possesses what may be called individual character, national character. That means a good leader must possess individual character and national character. And in a few slides later, we'll see what these contents are. Only such a person can become an ideal leader. Okay, continue. When we talk about ideal leader, what is that we are talking about as an ideal leader? Continue. Yeah. Giving up selfish interest, eschewing ideas of mine and thine, the true leader should be dedicated to the welfare of all and uphold the reputation of his country. So beautifully said by Bhagavan. You must be able to eschew the ideas of mine and thine. A true leader should be able to dedicate to the welfare of all and uphold the reputation of country. Okay, here I am going to give the example from Emperor Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar. Akbar term came much later. His name was only Jalaluddin Muhammad. Here I would like to mention very clearly I do not have access to the correct information because there's no correct biography of this emperor, the authentic one. There are so many stories have come out, so many variations are there, but in all of them, there's one thing which is common: end result. So I'm going to focus on the end result, but not what led to that particular activity of his. Akbar, what he did was one day, just to know what is actually happening, because he always felt, or somebody had prompted him and told him that, look, what you're sitting in the court in the darbar and listening to people, you think that everything is rosy like that. It may not be unless you go out and see for yourself. And for that he disguises and goes. And we know this particular part, who prompted him, who followed him, who are all with him, and what happened is not. When he goes and looks at, the story gets his totally different. So he's perplexed and stunned that, what is that information I'm getting, what's actually happening? Always, he thought, everything was rosy and then it was all mine, not theirs, mine. No, that is the type of role he was playing sitting in that bar. Now he said, what is this? And he always had, as I understand from whatever literature I've read about him, he always had the uppermost of the Hinduism, Hindu state, Hindu Rashtra as he calls it, Hindustan as he calls it. Of course, the meaning of Hindustan is other side of Indus River. He always thought about that as a goal, and he has to uphold the values of that particular goal, the nobility of that particular unit. And that's why he does so many things which are not what his ancestors did, was totally different from them. That's why, seeing what he has done, I think it was the Hindu community we gave him the title called Akbar. And then it became so popular that everybody calls him as Akbar only, not in Jalaluddin Muhammad. So, and that's a thing he was able to acquire. As an ideal, he was able to acquire by doing certain thing which is necessary for the welfare of all and uphold the reputation. He didn't talk about anything else. He uphold the reputation of the country which is there and welfare of all. Please understand. At those days, so many hundreds and hundreds of years back, he had that particular one. I'm not talking about the rest of the things, please. I'm not an advocate of any of these people. I'm just taking a particular incident from which we can learn, which is good for us. So that's one. You can see, if you're in a position, you must be able to do this type of welfare for all others. So when I'm leading, not only should I look after the welfare of me, my team, and also the society in which we are working. So the reputation of that particular place is the one which I should keep. And the process, when I am able to keep that, I keep the reputation of my organization for which I am representing. That's the one which is important, because all of you are going to be in profession and also are going to be part of organizations, social organizations. It is very essential to understand this particular fact if you want to be a follower and then become a leader of those particular units. Next slide, please. Now here again, I'll give a few examples. Wait. One of the things, on all occasions, one should march in front rather than issue orders, because we said lead is what I told in right at the beginning. You should be able to, and not you issue order. You should set an example by his actions. The world needs today leaders who will guide in action. Guide in action. That means by doing it, you're going to, and we'll come to it what it means a little later when we talk about individual character and national character. Let me give an example. Next. Yeah, wait. This is, all of us know this particular story. But even before the book was written, I had an opportunity to be interacting with Dr. Abdul Kalam as part of my job, because we were doing a project for DRDO, say in Hyderabad. So on occasion, and my boss knew him very well as an individual person himself. So on an occasion, three of us met outside the office. And then casually I asked him about, now, who do you consider as your leader? Now, whom do you like to consider as a hero? At that time, he talked about Dr. Satish Dhawan. I had also met Dr. Satish Dhawan along with my boss, because he also knew him very well. At that time, he was also the Director of Indian Institute of Science, and also he was the scientific advisor to the Raksha Mantri in government, and he was also heading the Space Research Organization. So many areas he was working. I had an occasion to meet, and when I talked to him, spent time, I didn't talk to him much, I listened to him. I saw what type of personality he was, okay? And I asked him, what actions of Satish Dhawan did make an impact on you, I asked him. Then he said when he was in Sriharikota launching station, and one of the rockets were being launched, space vehicles were being launched. As it took off from the launch pad, we all know the first one was a disaster. Within a couple of seconds, the whole thing blew up in the Bengal. And now everybody was devastated. So many important, all the press was called and everybody is there to make the grand announcement. And Dr. Abdul Kalam was heading the unit. In all probability, he should have gone and given the particular bad news. At that time, he said, Dr. Abdul Kalam mentioned, space ISRO chief was Satish Dhawan, who was also present at the launch pad. Because that was the first one and everybody was there. So Satish Dhawan said, I believe, all of you go back to your quarters and to wherever you're staying, enjoy. Forget about everything else. Do not worry. Just sleep off. Tomorrow we'll see what is to be done. I will handle the press. He goes to the press and makes the announcement, and he owns the responsibility, saying that, look, I take the responsibility for disaster, and I'll see to that the next one will not fail, and I'll stand by it. And we all will put in all the efforts which is needed, and next time when it was done, it was a fantastic success. And same Satish Dhawan and Abdul Kalam, Satish Dhawan told Abdul Kalam, you go and make the announcement. This is what we call as lead from the front. Lead from the front means if something goes wrong, you get the first bullet in you. And that's the difference. And if you look at the Kargil war, at that time, after a long gap, we got a war. And we saw that number of officers died first. Number of officers, because all of them wanted to lead from the front. And they were the people who took the first bullet, not the Jawans who were behind. Lead from the front. That's why we won so many battles in that particular war. Only because of that leading by example, and the way people got motivated, irrespective of that, all the difficulties and all, they said nothing doing, it has to be one. And they gave a commitment at 12 o'clock in the night, we are going to hoist Indian flag. They did it. On dot, the flag was up there. That's how they are able to achieve. Lead from the front. And that's what we are too important. When you are going to be a leader, you should be able to lead from the front. Continue. Next. Only the person who practices Satya Dharma Shanti Prema and Ahimsa and experiences joy therefrom and share that joy with others can be called a leader. Let us look at an example. And this I'm going to talk about as a commoner, a story about a commoner. And what I'm going to say, all of you know it, or most of you know it, because it has come to me in a WhatsApp group, where I'm part of a group called Professors, and somebody forwarded to me in that. And if it has come to me, I think we are the last group line to get. Most of you had already got it. But nevertheless, it struck me so much, I felt so very happy about it. This is about an individual, a common man. He used to go to one particular fruit stall in the bazaar, and go to that same one and buy orange or something, Mossambi or one of the fruits he used to take. 1 kilo, 2 kilos. And after taking his weight and money is given, what he used to do is take one fruit and give it to that particular vendor and says, open it, I want to taste it, how it is. So he'll cut it into pieces and he'll take one piece and eat it and say, hey, taste is bad. If it is sweet, it is not sweet, it is bitter, and leave the whole of the rest of the fruit with the vendor and take the rest of the fruits and go away. And in front of him now, he says, my fruits are all good. And he takes the rest of the piece, one piece, and says, look, it tastes sweet. Why does he complain? It's sour. And he is having he used to eat the whole thing. Another person was observing both this incident. Day in and day out, it is happening. So he asked that particular vendor, it's a sweet, isn't it, as you are saying? And he's saying, sir, why are you not objecting to him? He said, nahi sahab, dusra baat hai. He just told diya. And then he asked that the person,
when it's sweet, why are you complaining that it is sour? Next time when he comes, no, why do you complain sour? But I believe it is sweet. Then he puts his hand on the person, takes him away and says, no, the reason is his poor fellow is selling. He won't get an opportunity to eat it, his own fruits, because he wants the money. So at my cost, I want him to enjoy one fruit at least from his own, so that he will be able to get the joy of eating the sweet fruit at no cost to him. Because Bandiwala, he is very poor. He wants every piece to be sold so that he get that one extra rupee necessary. That means he's not going to. Just look at this particular nobility of that particular person. Just look at the nobility of that particular person. How beautiful this particular experience is converted into something to communicate to society. Joy. And Swami, as he says, joy stands for Jesus first, others next, and yours at last. And this is where, I would like to also go to the next slide and sum it up with what, if you see, I give 4 sets of examples. One from mythology, one from centuries back, one is current heroes, and one common person I've given. Right? Can you make any meaning out of this? Please note down what you think. Why I give different type of examples. Okay? When question answer session comes, if necessary you raise and I'll answer this question. In addition to these qualities, a good leader should be selfless and be imbued with the spirit of sacrifice or tyaga. I use the word imbued. Swami has used the word imbued, not imbibe. There's a big difference between the two terms. Please know what the difference is. Go to Wikipedia and see. He should have only the people's welfare at heart and seek to win their approbation by service. He must be prepared even to make the supreme sacrifice for the sake of his people. And this is the one which is most important. Okay? And here I would like to talk about what people normally talk about, charity. When we give something charity, what is that we do? We normally give what is surplus from us. I got 100 rupees, I need 80 rupees for my requirement. I have 20 rupees, maybe I can part with this 20 rupees. Swami says, this is not charity. Charity should come from a spirit of sacrifice. That means not that 20 rupees which you're going to give. From 80 rupees which you're going to consume, can you give part of it and then reduce your consumption? And that is how that particular thing gets sanctified. It is at that stage, whatever you're doing gets sanctified. Because charity is supposed to sanctify. As you find in Mahabharata, Karna says to Krishna when he loses the knowledge of the Brahmastra, I did so much of charity. Why is it that then Krishna says differently, you did charity for what? Did you sacrifice? You had it, you gave it. You didn't sacrifice anything. Sacrifice makes it sanctified, and that gives you the results. So if you are looking for, you must be having this particular tyaga bhava. He should have only the people's welfare at heart and seek to win their approbation by service. And this is what is going to be. I think you're showing what the next slide, please. Next slide. So you find, I like to give this particular example of water project for sacrifice when Swami is talking about. This happened, and I have personal experience, knowledge of this particular incident because it happened right in front of my eyes, and I heard every bit of it. So, but just listen to it. Don't unnecessarily go over quoting it. No, previous slide, please. Previous slide. So, in that particular one, what happened was, one day, out of nowhere, Swami was giving talk in the discourse in the Poonachandra auditorium, and suddenly in the middle of it, Swami said, I am going to do water project for Anantapur district. Those days, all the trustees and eminent people who follow Swami from Mandir to Poonachandra when Swami is giving a divine discourse, they used to sit back behind the screen, backstage. And since I was doing duty at that time, I was also standing in the backstage. But no, near the curtain just to see Swami. In case some signal comes, I can go forward in case he wants to tell me something or to get done. So I was looking at both sides. And the moment Swami said this, I personally felt maybe Swami would have discussed with all these elders and done a lot of planning and everything, and Swami is making grand announcement. When I look at the face of all these trustees, Bilal Shah and all others, they were about to collapse. They were about to collapse. When so many governments and so many institutions and kings and others could not do a water project for Anantapur district, Bhagwan is just announcing it as if it is Bahat ka khel hai. Very simple to be done. And they were all stunned. We had to get some glass of water for them. After all that discourse and everything was over, Swami, very in his own mischievous way, smiley, came. And I gave this Swami kerchief because the Swami was already perspiring, his fan was not adequate, I guess. Then I came inside and looked at all these faces which have fallen. Hama Yemi? Yemaindi? Swami was asking. Swami, I know. You'll say that Central Trust doesn't have money. But let me tell you, I have made this announcement. And it is my responsibility to execute it. And let me tell you, my word will be done. And then this is the most important one, but just keep it to yourself. Do not talk about it. Just enjoy this one and see what lessons you can learn. Okay? It's not for something for publicizing. Especially the elders who are listening to me. Please do not publicize about these things. Just enjoy Bhagwan. What type of person with whom we were looking at, with whom we were moving in. Everybody talks about Swami's avatar. Okay? Did we understand the term called avatar? Was he an avatar? Then suddenly somebody came and said, no, he's Purna avatar. Okay? Then somebody said, Purna avatar? And then everybody would like to go back into the history and the volumes of the mythology. Has anybody described, has anybody done to be qualified as Purna avatar? If you ask me, I will say he's Paripurna avatar. He's just beyond. He's Krishna, he's Rama and all others put together and beyond possibly, he is that particular avatar, Paripurna. That is much beyond the imagination of anybody else. He has reached that level, is that eminent person he is. And we are talking about that. What we want to enjoy Bhagwan. And that gives you the bliss. Okay? And Swami said this statement, which is very important. I have committed for this project. If necessary, I will sell Prashanti Nilayam. Just imagine the holiest of the places is called the spiritual capital of the world. Prashanti Nilayam is spiritual capital of the world. And he says that I will sell this Prashanti Nilayam to complete this particular project. It doesn't stop there. He makes one more statement. If necessary, I will sell myself. I fell down. Frankly, I just collapsed there. There was some chair or something, I was holding onto the chair so I don't fall flat on the ground there and become a nuisance. Bhagwan saying this statement. And we all know what he did. What did he do? He took 100 crores as a loan. All of us know he had made an announcement also from Canara Bank. I have personal knowledge. All the programs, all the festivities, all the things were going the same grand scale and everybody was getting their gifts and other things. None of them were deprived. But look at Swami, what is to happen. All the money which is required for this was from his sacrifice. He led a life in which he sacrificed a lot of things only for the purpose of fulfilling it without nobody else getting that particular effect. And that is what the spirit of sacrifice, Tyaga, which we talk about. That's why when we say, Bhagwan says that my life is my message, he has led from the front, everything he has practiced it but told us he did not do anything which he has not practiced it. All these particular statements which are there from that particular forward which is written, please read it 10 times. Every word of it is Swami has followed it in his own life, set it as an example for all of us to go forward. Okay, I have become emotional because talking about Swami and looking at certain things which has happened, even now you can just see, have so many goosebumps all over my body is only that. That is the type of personality with whom we are talking about. I'm sure some of you have not seen him, may not have been interacting or may be knowing for the first time. But please feel that come to Prashantilim a couple of times and you will experience that particular phenomena of Bhagavan. And that's what's important. In case you are not able to come because of the pandemic and other things, go to the local Sai centers and you will definitely feel that aura of Bhagavan and experience it. Next slide, please. I think I got only a few minutes. Let me complete my part of the story. Leader is one who gives all ideas of gives up all ideas of possessiveness, strives only for well-being of society, and holds himself forth as an ideal human being. Actually describing Bhagavan, isn't it? Next, continue. So what actually counts as a leader and his leadership is only conduct counts. Conduct is supremely important. How you conduct yourself, how you behave, that is the one which is most important. And if you look at this particular phenomena, elsewhere also I'm going to repeat the statement. Go to Vidyavani book and read it. And more importantly, if you can, go to chapter 8, and that's the most important one. Next. Now, we talked about individual character, national character. Swami also talks about these details in the article which has been circulated to you. Character is life. Sorry. A leader possesses what may be called individual character and national character. Only such a person becomes an ideal leader. Continue. And that's why in our system, we talked about, continue please. It says, Bhagavan says, education, end of education is character. End of education is character. Okay. Now I think I bored you enough for almost close to an hour without seeing anything or hearing anything. I would like to play a small video, 1 minute video. Okay, just 1 minute, 60 seconds. Go listen to it very carefully. At the end, because I don't talk or say anything or show you anything without a learning. I'm going to ask you a question at the end of it. Okay, so be attentive. Can you play the video, please?
कोई तुम्हें अल्लाह कहे, कोई तुम्हें ईश्वर कहे, कोई तुम्हें अल्लाह कहे, कोई तुम्हें ईश्वर कहे, साचे मन से जो भी पुकारे हुए भगवान भगवान, ओ हो हे त्रिभुवन पालक महान, है तुझसे ही रोशन ये दो जहां, तेरे द्वारे खड़ा तेरी संतान, दी जो मुझे विद्या वरदान भगवान भगवान.
Participants, I would like to ask this question. I think you have heard, at least the voice was very clear. This was, for a birthday celebration the previous day. Dr. Abdul Kalam was the president of the country, was the chief guest. At that time, the convocation drama, this song was composed and played. At the end, we say that no, so Bhagavan, we have come to your doorstep. Give us a boon. And we ask for a boon. What is the type of boon we have asked? When Bhagavan was there, Paripurna Avatar is standing there, he could give anything we ask. What is that we have asked? Think about it. Next line. Next slide, please. So here, as an individual Vyakti, we have to have individual character which is called Vyaktigata. And then we should also have national character, which is Rashtriya.
Rashtriya Dharma.
So we need both Vyaktigata Dharma as well as Rashtriya Dharma. So both these things are very important. Okay. Now let us try to find out what, because already this statement we have used few slides before. Now let us see what actually Swami says is individual character, because this is the first time anybody is talking about a requirement of these particular two characteristics of a character to be imbibed in individual when he wants to be a leader. A leader should have possessed this. That's what the leadership is all about. Okay. First time it has been mentioned. So can you just continue, please? An individual character, continue. Show all the things. Should have good qualities, virtues, and pure mind. And pure mind here, what we talk about, thought, word, and deed. What we call Trikarna Suddhi. But all of us are familiar with this particular term, walk the talk. In the walk to the talk, out of the 3 words which are used, only the last 2 words come into play. Words and actions. Only these are the 2 words which are there. But what drives these 2 words is the first one, which is thoughts. So people have forgotten in what they are talking about this particular aspect which is important. Along with these particular 3, we need patience, sacrifice, valor, courage, boldness, compassion, honesty, and integrity. And so many other things. We are talking about all positives. Is that all we should have? Continue. There's 2 more things which are very important, which we should not have. Continue, please. And those 2 are ego and greed. If you want to have an individual character, you must not have these 2. All positives should be there. These 2 you should avoid. So all the effort which you are going to put in as a follower is to see that no, we are able to reinforce the first good qualities in us, and see that no, we do not encourage these 2 to be present in our life. When we are able to do this, then we become individual character to be such eligible to become leaders and have a leadership role to be played. Continue. And this is where Bhagavan says, tell me your company and I'll tell you who you are. So how beautifully Swami has put it. Looks very simple statement, but no, this is what the communication that one is. Next slide, where we talk about, I talked about individual character. Now let me look at what the national character is. In national character, we are talking about patriotism, sense of national unity and national spirit. Of course, this is a very controversial one, but I would like to go away from the controversies, come back to what Swami has said, so that we are very clear, we are focused. And next line, love for one's own nation. And nation means nationalism. And this again, let us not have the fanaticism about it. There is a big difference between the 2. Swami talks about nationalism, and that's what is very important. And let's continue. And Bhagavan says, Janani Janmi Bhumascha Sargayat Vidaryasi. And this is a statement which Lord Rama makes when Lakshmana tells, Lord Rama, how such a beautiful Lanka is. We'll go back. Bharata is already ruling the place. We don't know what the situation is going to be. Why not we stay back here? He says, sorry. And this is the most famous statement which has been made by Lord Rama on the battleground after winning the war. Continue, please. Bhagavan says, it is not possible for national character to be present forever in the absence of individual character. That means you cannot have this nationalism if you do not have those particular characteristics which are individual characteristics with positives, minus ego and greed. Please remember, you'll now start looking at so many people and see how whether they are all representing or not. Please do not do that. No judgments to be passed. Just purely listen to what Swami is saying and being by yourself on that. Do not compare with others. At the same time, without national character, individual character alone would not be adequate to ensure advancement of the country. If you are playing the leadership role, when here you use the word country, it could be for a company, for an organization, anything else, even for such an organization, let us put it. If NGOs, if you are going to look at, you cannot talk about their advancement unless you are able to have both these together. And that's why Swami says you must have individual character and national character. That's a focus. I'm quite sure somebody has already given a talk on contents of these details. Otherwise, there are articles and books which are Bhagavan has discourses are there which gives all these details, as we can see some other occasion. Okay, so both these together are necessary, and if they are coming together, what is the advantage? Next slide. The advantage is going to be next slide. When integrity and patriotism are developed in an individual, his vision becomes broad and his outlook unbalanced. These things are going to be the benefits if you are going to imbue in you both national character and individual character. The Rashtriya Dharma and Vyaktigata Dharma, if both are there in us, our vision becomes broad. And that's what is necessary when you are going to become lead organizations. And that's unless you have that broadness and the outlook which are balanced, then only you are able to become a successful leader. Continue, please. We talked about, and this is what I was mentioning, the Vidya Vahini and especially chapter 8. I'm sure all of you are going to say that you are very busy with so many other things. Only read chapter 8. Humility and obedience should be recognized as the highest goal of education. And finally, one must develop love and devotion towards one's motherland and cultivate individual as well as national character. And these two very elaborately Swami illustrated in this particular chapter. So please, and I also talked about contact. And these are the three things which are getting integrated. That's why we are talking about human values are integration. Integration of individual things, individual elements, individual entities. That you put together, it becomes human values. Manavata Viluvalu. Next slide, please. If you are going to have this, key to success through values-centered leadership is courage, compassion, continue, creativity, clarity, and centering. Focused, stay focused. Details are there. Since the slides will be there, maybe PPTs also can be sent. You can go through these details. And there's nothing much to be explained. They're all self-explanatory. Next slide, please. Then Bhagavan on the has given us a model, and actually we call it as a model subsequently. This is what Swami said. A person who has thought, word and deed, which I remember I mentioned, Trikanda Suddhi, only walk the talk is only the last two words and deeds, but we call it Trikanda Suddhi. Doing good and sacred deeds. Doing good, that means all three together unity should be there, but they should be sacred in nature, are socially acceptable and are in harmony with each other. Then one can become a good, effective leader. And this is what Swami talks about. So you must have a model which actually depicts this particular one. And that particular depiction is what we are going to look at when we continue. The entire distillate of this leadership process can be summed up in just 4 words. Next slide. All the slides which I talked about are now finally getting translated into this particular slide with these 4 statements. To be, to do, to see, and to tell. Okay. What is the purpose of each one of them and what it constitutes is the next 2 slides we are going to see. Continue, please. To be is the source of leadership. To be a person of character, both individual and national put together. To do is the style of leadership by personal example. People may doubt what you say, but we believe what you do. And last, to see and to tell are the functional tools and techniques of leadership. So that means in this model, all the things have been put together. And that's the beauty of this particular model of Bhagavan. Okay, that's why he called it as a model. So continue. So what each one of them stands for to be, continue please. First is to be, is the leadership trait steeped in the leader's character, which is values, qualities, character, knowledge, etc. Simply put, live it. That means I should be able to practice it. to do, I should be, and they do. A leadership is based on practicing what you preach. That means I'm going to say something, but have I put it to practice? And somebody would have already talked about that particular play which Swami had written when he was a school student, Cheppinati Chastara. And that's what is the most important. What you are trying to tell, are you practicing in your own life? Next is to see implies that leader must be in complete touch with the realities of the environment in which he or she is working. Such societal environment is what we talk about, Desha Kala Paristhiti. So when I should see in which situation am I going to talk, in which situation am I going to preach certain things, and to tell. The last one is means of conveying to others what the leader wants them to do. He has done it and is asking you to do it. And this is where the beauty is. Bhagwan has led. That's why when he says, my life is my message, everything Swami talked he has practiced it before. He has practiced it before. And we are so fortunate now. We had real-time information documented by people like Kasturi and others of what actually was the history of Swami, what was actually being done, what's going on. And that's the beauty. And no other previous avatar or any other entity or any spiritual leader or any religious leaders has ever been communicated, who actually instituted them, have actually documented that particular way. It is only Bhagwan's. And that's why we are so fortunate, we got everything. So Swami is transparent when he's talking about it. Continue, please. So if it's going to be, looks like a process, let's look at what the process is. Next slide, please. Is this one. We start at the bottom. We start with the base is to be, I should be, then to do, and then to see and to tell. That's the sequence which has to be followed. So when you, and for outsiders, only the last part, only the tip of the iceberg is only seen. That is to tell. What he tells only people see. But people in the team are able to see not what only he says, but also they're able to see and possibly what he's doing, half of it. And people only he knows how he is and what is the particular thing is happening. So that's why you see that no different people they get exposed to. So when somebody introduced here as a personal assistant to Bhagwan, so he's trying to communicate that no, he has got a little more insight, he's able to see a little more closely at something which was not in the public domain, and that's the one which you are really talking about is, and this is what is very important for us to understand. Next slide, please. Having known these things, now I want to know, I know all this information. How do you know I'm going to be on the track? What prompts me to see that no, I don't deviate from what Swami's requirement is if I want to be a leader and have leadership qualities? And for that, Swami also has given the answer for this. I'm quite sure somebody's already covered it, but I just put it for completion purpose, this particular one from a different perspective of leadership. Continue, please. We talk about a, wait for a minute. This is a clock. And everybody would again, at least I saw one person now focusing his particular talk on this particular aspect, watch. And what did Swami say? Continue next. Watch stands for watch your words, watch your actions, watch your thoughts, watch your character, and watch your heart. Okay. And if we do this, then what happens? This leads to, continue please, two clicks. It comes to truth, right conduct, peace, love, and non-violence. These are the five. And somebody would already mentioned, you substitute watch your words into love in words is truth. Love in action is right conduct. Love in thoughts is peace. Love in character is love. And love in at heart is non-violence. So all the human values you are talking about, we saw each one of them separately. We saw its integration and we are able to now see how it gets translated. That means to keep myself on track always on human values, this is a good reminder. Watch your words, actions, thoughts, character and heart. If you are able to do, and that's it. Continue, there is a statement below. And Swami says, సత్య ధర్మ శాంతి ప్రేమలతో మీ నిత్య జీవన యాత్ర సాగించు. Please play the video. You can see Swami himself singing this particular song.
సత్య ధర్మము శాంతి ప్రేమలతో మీ నిత్య జీవన యాత్ర సాగించు. సత్య ధర్మము శాంతి ప్రేమలతో సత్య ధర్మము శాంతి ప్రేమలతో మీ నిత్య జీవన యాత్ర సాగించు. మానవ ధైర్యమే మంచి ఎరువుగా, ప్రేమాధారలే పంట విత్తులుగా, భక్తే వర్షము భవమే కలుపులు, నిత్యానందమే పండెడి పంట, నిత్యానందమే పండెడి పంట. సత్య ధర్మము శాంతి ప్రేమలతో మీ నిత్య జీవన యాత్ర సాగించు.
సత్య ధర్మము శాంతి ప్రేమలతో నిత్య జీవన యాత్ర సాధించు.
సత్య ధర్మము శాంతి ప్రేమలతో మీ నిత్య జీవన యాత్ర సాగించు.
You have heard so many talks so far, and you have heard, I'm almost in the last slide I have come to. Did we miss anything? Do you think we have missed anything? Just note down on your piece, on your paper, on your pad. I can send it on chat if you are necessary. Yes, one of the most important things, one of the bedrocks of Swami's philosophy, we have missed getting integrated into this particular leadership. And what is that? Next slide, please. Is an attitude. What attitude are you talking about? What attitude is Swami talking about? Continue. What attitude? Attitude of gratitude. You can just see how important Swami has given to this term gratitude. I am quite sure this has been already covered, otherwise it's going to be covered very soon. If not, I will request Gopi to organize a session so that now what Swami talked about, what he meant, and all that now you can discuss. That's very important for you to understand if you want to appreciate what Swami is. Gratitude. And the question is very simple. To whom and what for? Next, continue. To whom should we express our gratitude and what for should we express our gratitude? And again, my life is my message, Swami. Let's see how Swami expresses gratitude. Okay, next slide. Examples are two examples. One example all of you would have heard. So many people talk about Horsley Hills. I will not talk about it. How Swami is expressing gratitude to an animal, a horse. Okay, a buffalo. Sorry, to a buffalo. Next one is about water project, which is I had a preview to it. I was present when this thing happened. How Swami expressed, and I really got stunned. Okay, it was during the water project for Anantapur district. It was going on halfway through. I mean, half the number of villages were almost 400 villages were completed, and all the village heads met somewhere and had a discussion. Just see Bhagwan, without me asking, we asked all governments, all ministers, everybody who came, we have asked, and nobody had done anything for us. Whereas Bhagwan, on his own, such a massive project of providing water, drinking water, doorstep he has given. I think we all should go and express our gratitude to Bhagwan. They all thought, and then they all landed up, over 400 plus they had landed up. And I was in charge at that time, so message was sent to me, sir, so many people have come, they want to talk to you. I went and asked, what is it? They said, sir, we all have come with this noble idea of now expressing gratitude. Can you make us sit in some location so that we together can be able to express our gratitude? So I thought, okay, there's nothing going to be very seriously wrong if we all sit down, because I didn't have enough time to take permission from Swami whether I can make them sit. So, or possibly, Chiranjirao or somebody would have, but they wouldn't have taken that initiative. They came and asked me. I said, okay, please sit down, and made arrangement. And the special arrangement normally for such groups is in front of the car sheds. Those who have gone to Prashanthali would know. And this lovely location, because Swami takes turn and comes to the end of the gent side, and as he comes straight, and right in front of them is of Swami's vision is these people who are seated. So something got unmissable. You can't be missed. So I mean, knew all these things now. I mean, he's beyond all these things. He knows everything. So he took. I was just following Swami, and normally we used to follow a little respectable, about a foot and a half or 2 feet behind. We used to walk, or maybe sometimes it's less than that, depending on the situation. Swami was not looking at that side at all, he was looking right side, left side, the devotees and all. Just towards the end of the line, when suddenly Swami lifted his head, as if seeing them for the first time, he looked at and he became so happy seeing so many people coming from village, various villages around. Because he has travelled many of those villages and he was seen some of them before itself, so he could recognize them. Then Swami started walking briskly towards them. As Swami increased his pace, I also increased my pace, and I reduced the gap between Swami and me, because I wanted to listen how Swami is going to interact with these people and how devotees are going to interact and express their joy to Bhagavan for the water supply which they are given, Swami is given. I was very close, and as Swami was going close, we told the discipline of the place that don't be unruly, just get up and do whatever you want. Just few of you get up and be on your knees and pray to Swami, and then when Swami gives time, all of you can participate and talk whatever you want. So, as Swami was going closer, few of them got up and they folded their hands and said, Swami, I'll tell you in Telugu, Swami, meandaram kritagnatal. That means they wanted to say, you want to express a kritagnatal telupudaman ichcham Swami. Even before Swami could complete that particular word kritagnata, Swami stopped. Agu. Swami said, Agu. Obviously, they have to stop. They stopped. I was wondering that what's actually happening, going to happen. Then when Swami went closer, Meer kaadu, Nenu meeku kritagnatal telipali. I was bold. English, Swami said, not you. I have to express gratitude to you. Just imagine. Paripurna Avatar talking that he wants to express his gratitude. Why? What for? Then the next sentence was very simple, beautiful, so beautiful it is. Endukante meeru naaku oka chinna avakasam icharu meeku seva chesukovadaniki. Even now, I don't think I'll be able to sleep tonight, remembering all these incidences of Bhagavan. Swami said, because you gave me a small opportunity to serve you. A small opportunity you have given me to serve you. That means when you do service, you should express your gratitude to the person who is receiving your service. You should normally what is, hey, I'm doing the Gram Seva, I'm doing the medical service, you better be grateful. It is saying, don't demand things, okay, just receive and go, is what we say. No. He has given you an opportunity to serve him. So you must be able to express gratitude. I mean, especially we have seen this happening hundreds of times over at least the 3 states which have won. They have imbibed so much of it in such that they believe that they got an opportunity to serve. I mean, I can't talk about some of my own experience in this or my own miracles which happened with respect to this particular fact right now, because already we across the time. So it's very essential that now we must be able to express. Okay, next line please. If God himself is going to express gratitude, what about us? And how should we express our gratitude? And that's what is important. I like to express my gratitude to Bhagavan. Bhagavan, right from my childhood, you held my hand, took me through all that which is required, and I know personally that I'm not eligible for it. I know how bad I was in academics. I know how well I did not pass, how did not get good marks. But you gave me the best of the education this country can provide. I studied in the best of the institutions. I got the best of degrees and I got the best of marks and got ranks. All that is only because of you. And worked in companies which are reputed. And the projects which are being given to me was such reputation. My God, I mean, Swami, it was only because of you. Only because of you. I express my gratitude to you. This life is for you, Swami. This life is for you. Let's continue. Now, Gopi, can we have question answer session now?
Yes, so maybe about 5 to 10 minutes we can do Q&A, and then if there are any questions furthermore, we'll pack it up into, we'll consolidate it and send it to you, sir.
Yeah, and then I'll send you back this one video of my replies. We can attach to the video. Yeah,
maybe we'll do that.
15 minutes maximum.
Yes, Chinmay, can you take over and moderate the Q&A questions right now?
Yes, Bhaiya. Sairam. So, Brother King Sisters, we have not received any question in the chat box. So, if you want, you can unmute yourself or else raise your hand. We'll take your question one by one. Yes, Subham Chauhan. Go ahead and ask.
Loving Sairam to you, sir.
Sairam.
Sir, when we speak about individual character and national character, and at the same time transforming ourselves, how deeply both are intrinsically interlinked, sir? Because when I'm engaged in self-transformation, I could be disconnected, say, from the outside thing. I'm more inclined towards within me. And I'm disconnected from what's happening outside in society or, say, nation. So how can I strike the chord, the balance between individual character and the national character at the same time, serving the nation as well as having the benefit of involving myself in the self-transformation process? Sairam.
Okay. Let me make my one statement, which now with all humility, I would like to mention the statement. When I told Gopi, let's have question answer session, it's not that no, I'm an expert and I'll be able to answer. At every talk in the classroom, also all my students who are part of this particular program and others who know about me know. At the end of any session where I give a talk or no interaction, I always ask for questions, because that's a great method of knowing what I don't know. That's a great method of knowing what I don't know. That means, if I want to improve my knowledge, I should know what I don't know. So that I'm able to go back and then maybe tomorrow I look at some of the answers if I don't know the answers. Okay. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you that I don't know and then get back to you. Now the thing is, you're asking for self-transformation. What is the self-transformation for? You're going to live in the society. You're not staying in the forest. Even if you're going to stay in the forest, there's an environment in which you're going to stay. Your transformation should be in consonance or in harmony with that particular society, that environment. If you're looking for transformation, if you're going to be Japan, if you're not going to get acclimatized to that requirement of the nation, your transformation is not fulfilled. So it's very essential that you should know the environment, the Desakala Paristiti, in which situation you're going to be, and then look for your transformation. But there are two types of transformation, please understand. Transformation which is Vyaktigata, it's only personal to me, nothing more on my spiritual path. That transformation is one thing which is not going to affect anybody, nothing is going to affect me. Because that based on my Prarabdha karma and Sanchita karma, I have to go through all that. Okay, that is necessary for us. But that's different. But if I'm looking for transformation in myself, not that that core level, that self, that awareness self we are talking about as an individual, that transformation has to be with respect to society, because that transformation is the one which is going to make an impact or difference to society. And through the transformation, what you're able to serve the society. Look at the development, then look at the particular progress. So it is necessary. And for that, you need to have national character. To know that Desakala Paristiti, your national character comes into the picture. So your transformation, again, both of them are internal to you. National character and individual character, everything is inside you. So your self-transformation should be for that particular angle, keeping that in mind. Am I clear to you, Subhash? Sorry, Chavan?
Yes, sir. Little bit. Sairam, sir.
Sairam. Anybody else?
Sairam, brothers and sisters. Anyone else? We received a question in the chat box, sir. Brother Bhanki asked, it is very different when we are present in Sai Kulwant Hall, and it's very hard to experience or tune into the divinity and the bliss we get when we see Swami within. We didn't get you exactly, Bhanki brother. Would you please just elaborate the difference in our presence in Kulwant Hall and when we experience Swami within? We want to know that difference of experiencing Swami in both the situations. Would you please just speak, brother?
Now, I'm not able to understand what the question is about. The experience you get when you are in cycle hall and the experience that you're going to get when you're individual in yourself, there's a variation you're talking about. Am I right?
Yes, I believe he is mentioning that when during the presence in Kulwant Hall, we experience something, and when we want to connect to Swami and want to find him within, we get a different experience altogether.
Okay. That's possible because no, the environment also aura is which makes. But I would like to make this particular statement of what Swami has said. Okay, Swami is to say that no, when you have my darshan, when I come and give darshan and you go back, all of you get up and leave, isn't it? Don't be in a hurry to get up and go. Just quietly for another minute or two, stay back. Close your eyes. And the experience which you got when you had darshan, close your eyes and try to get that experience into you. Get that experience into you. And close your eyes and experience that outside joy inside you. So when you come to Prashanti Nilayam, sit in the Sai Kulwant Hall. When you get that experience, try to internalize that experience, not just enjoy the experience indeed, because enjoying is only temporary. Internalizing is going to be long term. So as you continue doing this, every time you go to the bhajan center, you get experience, internalize. Every time you internalize each time, that inside it starts growing. So when you are at home or in workplace or now while traveling and you think about that experience, that same experience that you got there is what you start enjoying inside you. That means you are internalizing it. And this is what Swami's suggestion is. You internalize me in a situation where it's comfortable for you, internalize me fully. Once you are able to internalize me, then I'm always there with you. Who is the guest? Vasudevan? Who is the guest who asked this question?
Yes, Swati Vasudevan sister, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Yes, sister?
Go ahead, sister.
Swati, are you there? Okay, there's another question that's come up from Vishnu. Sairam sir, question on leadership. In corporate environment for leadership, there are two parties involved, the leader and the followers. If the leader has the required qualities but the team still does not deliver, then what needs to be done? Is there a checklist of a good follower? What should the role of a leader be when the team is unable to deliver?
Yeah, there's checklists which are given outside. There are a number of checklists which are there. You can just open any good textbook. Or I would suggest, no, can they get access to that man management book which I mentioned to you? Actually, we will
recirculate that book, sir. I think we have copies of it. I will ensure that we recirculate that book.
Yeah, I think no, that is actually Bhagwan has given more than close to about 100 discourses on management, right from 1986 to almost close to about 2002, 2003. No, I think 2005 also Swami has given the discourse. So almost for the 20 plus years, 25 years, Swami has given a number of discourses, and some of them are fantastic discourses which are totally not there even in a school of business management. And you will find that now they have started looking at some of these discourses and then see how they can put it into their curriculum. Everything is there. All the things which you are asking about leadership and other things, management and differences and everything is available in that particular book. I mean, it will take a lot of time for me to explain that. So they're available. But if still not clarified before end of December when the program still be on, let me know, then I'll just pull it out. And
we will circulate that, sir. We'll circulate that. Yeah. This question is coming from Swati Vasudevan. Sairam, sir, going back to the examples you had shared during your talk of Mother Sita, Lord Hanuma, and the commoner on who is the leader, my answer on the commonality is that it was their intent, character. Is that the similarity? Is that the similarity you were also leading us to? Can you please clarify?
Yeah. See, the one thing which is, in all their cases was, for example, Angada, suppose he was arrogant, he knew that no, he is so strong, even Ravana cannot. Or Hanuman did not stop the people to go and rescue Sugriva. What actually they are doing in this case? If both of them were to intervene the way it is, that Angada would have kept his leg and said, come Ravana, let's see, because he knew that he cannot. Who would he be literally? Lord Rama, isn't it? If Angada could take care of Ravana, where was the need for Lord Rama to come and kill him? Isn't it? So to enhance the glory, abilities of their leader, a follower did this particular one. Similarly, Hanuman could have gone and intervened, or Jamban would have gone and Angada would have gone and intervened, retrieved Sugriva. What will be the fate of Sugriva after that? Would he be able to sit on the throne anymore? When he is not able to rescue himself, he needed people to rescue him. When demand comes for rescuing the population, would he have the courage to do that? Will people have confidence in him? So Sita also, she would have very easily, when actually that particular, before Hanuman starts talking to, revealing himself to Mother Sita, Ravana comes. What is the statement which Sita makes? What are you talking about, man? I mean, I'm just using the word that way. She says, what are you talking? Within a split second, I can kill you by burning you totally. I have the abilities to do that, but I'm not doing it. Why? It is for Lord Rama to do that for you. He's the one who is going to kill you. I don't want to intervene with that particular plan. Every one of them were only trying to amplify the glory of God, Lord Rama. That's the lesson we should. That means whatever you're doing, enhance the reputation of the organization which you're working with. And not take care. Pardon? Somebody made a comment?
No. There was some cross communication happening, sir.
Probably by mistake.
Yeah. Gopi, am I clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, absolutely. You're clear.
So the commonality of all the examples which I gave was only to highlight the role of a follower is very simple. You do everything. Do it in such a way the credit goes to the organization, the person at top, which seldom does happen. In this context, if you don't give me half a minute, I want to tell you something, Gopi, and to the participants.
Yes.
See, what happened was, after he comes back, Hanuman comes back after seeing Mother Sita, all the people who accompanied Hanuman knew that he had seen Sita. They come back to Kishkinda. Please remember, Hanuman was still part of the ministry of Sugriva. He was not handed over and became the servant of Lord Rama. So he went and reported to Sugriva saying, I have come back. He did not tell what is the result and for him to go and tell. What the point? He says, I have come back. So Sugriva goes and tells Ravana, Lord Rama, Lord Rama's, Lord, Hanuman has come back. Shall I bring him? Because if Sugriva goes and tells Hanuman has seen, if Lord Rama would ask questions about it, Sugriva wouldn't know. So he didn't want to take the responsibility of communicating that message of what Hanuman is. So he wanted Hanuman himself. You know what Lord Rama did? I believe one of the commentary which I heard was, for next 3 days, Lord Rama did not call Hanuman at all. And what was the situation with Hanuman? And this is where now I wanted to communicate. Now we all talk about Swami conducts test for us, Swami conducts test for us. Please get it out of, because I asked Swami this particular thing. Swami, I was going through something, Swami said, I knew there was such a big test and I'll not be able to pass and I'll not be able to go through it properly and I'll be devastated. And I said, Swami, help me to pass this test. Test? What are you talking about? God doesn't come to do test. Swami said, I'm not come to test you. I'm not a sadist by putting some problem on you and then test you. No. Please understand, it's an opportunity. Opportunity to learn, opportunity to improve, and opportunity to make progress. So even Hanuman knew that why, he thought that he knew that why Lord Rama, and started doing introspection, deep introspection for 3 days. And then possibly he said that by 3rd day he repented for what he has done, not knowing that why he did it, what will have the impact. But he knew that it was a mistake and repented. Lord, I did this mistake, please pardon me. The moment he said that to himself, that Lord, pardon me for my mistake, that day Lord Rama called him. And the rest of it we know. How happy Lord Rama was, and he Kaugilins Kuntaru, then he embraces him and showers all the praises on him. After all the war and after they all go back to Ayodhya, after the coronation is over, one of the days Lord Hanuman asks, Lord Rama, please tell me, why did you keep me in quarantine for 3 days? I'm using the word quarantine because that's what we all now know. Because we all know, at least the participants would have been told by now, if you do something and Swami doesn't talk, he stops talking to you, everybody will put you in cold storage. Nobody wants to even look at you. And the same thing goes all the Vanaras, including Sugriva, did by not looking at Hanuman at all. Maybe he has done such a crime. No, let's not get involved with him, that we may also get a bad name. Then Lord Rama said, and this is where when Lord Rama says, I come for dharma, establishing dharma, that's the one which is important. He sent Lord Hanuman to trace Mother Sita. That is a Vyaktigata. And also a responsibility, if a subject in your kingdom has been abducted, it is your responsibility to get back that particular subject. So both are Rajadharma he was looking at. Nothing personal as individual whose spouse has been taken away. No. It was Rajadharma for which he was looking at. And what did Hanuman do after going? After seeing Lord Mother Sita, what did he do? He did Lanka Dahanam. So many, according to whatever that story, Sundarakanda, if you read, it says so many lakhs of people were killed, including Ravana's son. So many people were killed. Then he comes back and says, have we declared a war? You killed so many lakhs of people. All of them are innocent. None of them have participated in this particular crime. And you kill them? Who gave you the right? Who gave you the right to kill people? Because those days, when a war is declared, an option is given to both parties. If you feel the other fellow is having dharma on his side, you can migrate. You can change your party and go to the other side. And that's how Vibhishana came. So an opportunity, we give opportunity for people. And if those people were to believe that no, Ravana did something wrong, they could have come back and they can be neutral. They don't have to participate. They would have lived. On what basis did he kill? By you doing that, my reputation got affected. That's why I had to give you this particular lesson to be taught to you by keeping away for 3 days. Just see how every incident, every situation, everything has got such deep meaning, which is very essential for us to understand. So, my belief system is very simple. My belief system, if Swami has interacted with me, or I have gone through a situation, it is meant to teach me something. I need to learn that lesson. If I'm able to learn that lesson, that means I have done my job. And Swami's purpose has been fulfilled by me learning that particular lesson. Okay, is that clear now, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's
Sairam,
straight.
yes, sir. Sairam.
One more question, last
I
question,
think
please.
one last question we can take before we wind up.
Yes, because after this one slide I have to show and then we'll close.
Sir, we have received a question from Brother Nikhil Kale.
Okay.
When you mentioned about the conduct or the attitude, does it mean through our conduct we enhance the reputation of the organization that we lead?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You want me to give an example?
Yes, sir, please.
Oh, one small example. See, after I had joined the university, Swami had instituted a code of conduct for us, all the teachers, and one of the code was wearing white dress. I religiously follow it up. Even when I'm traveling by train, even by flight or any other mode of transport I go, I will always wear white dress. Though many people say, why are you wearing, you may clothes may get dirty. I said, it's all right. We'll have one more pair extra. That's all. Okay. By me wearing the white dress, the people who, when I sit in a coach, the attitude of the people who are traveling co-passengers is different towards me. When I'm sitting in the aeroplane and traveling, when white dress they see, the air hostess and the others, they look at me differently. And I can see they look at me with respect. I'm not a celebrity. I'm nothing. But this makes a difference. My conduct, my manners, the way I speak. So once happened, something fell on me while they're carrying and giving it. I said, it's all right. But I see people blow their top and then go and complain to the management. It's a mistake here. It happens to you also at home. Why should you blow your top? Thereby, first question is, which organization you come from? Whom do you represent? That is what is important for us. Am I clear?
Yes, sir, pretty clear.
Okay.
So with this,
Last slide, please.
Slide.
Last slide.
Yes.
I'll conclude my talk. I'm very grateful to the organization because the way you have given me platform. Okay, this is one concept which has now come up, which is going to become very, very, very important in the few days to come, maybe by next year. Because I've seen people have already approached me to give some ideas on how to go about in this particular way. Organizations now want to practice what is called societal management based on values. They were always talking about organization, talking about respect to what is called as organization management, resource management. But now people are talking about societal management, and a company is working in the society. So I must be able to manage the society. Management, I should be able to take care of the welfare of the society. And that should be based on values. One of the Fortune 500 companies in the world, I think based on Switzerland, had approached to one of the Indian directors of the company, whether they can throw some light on how to go about it on this particular concept which are coming up. And actually, if you look at it, you have to look at it from a different perspective, that's all, and the answers are very clear based on what Swami has already said. He has covered this particular area also, but though Swami has not given this term called societal management, he has not mentioned that. But we can see, if you read the discourses in a little more depth and introspect on them, or do deep analysis, the solutions are already available. So that's what is going to be the new focus. Yeah, continue. Focusing on values need to be imbued in managing enterprises as socially responsive to being just only stakeholders responsive. And what is needed is what is called deep inquiry abilities. And that's the one which is most important. And last line, please. Know on what aspects top management should be focusing on their inquiry. And that we are able to understand. Last sentence, please. Last click. And that's the last one. So management now will have to understand, do deep inquiry on what aspect. And that thing is the one which is going to be the focus in this new era, which is going to be the future. When you, the participants, are going to be involved in this type of management. Okay, I take this opportunity, offering myself like a bubble on the wave in the ocean, which is looking forward to merging in the ocean, and which is died divinely sweet. Bhagwan, I offer myself tan, man, dhan, everything, and died divine lotus feet, so that I am able to reach back in you. Jai Sai Ram. Thank you.
Sairam, Professor Sudhir Vaskar Garu. I have no words to express. We have come to the grand finale of our leadership course, and we're just 3 or 4 sessions away before we close this program. And what better session could Bhagwan gift us through you? And this has been an icing on the cake, and it was so wonderful. You've really managed to bring out the entire essence of the leadership program into the spirit of making our team understand the practicality of leadership. I have no words to express our gratitude. The last part of your talk was on gratitude, and I would like to start with gratitude, saying that we're very, very thankful to Bhagwan to first give us this opportunity to reach out to you, and also we express our gratitude to Swami and you for actually enlightening us on this wonderful topic the practical way.
No, I won't accept that, because all the things I have talked is only what Swami has said. I have not done a great job, okay? So our gratitude is only to Bhagwan, because Bhagwan so much of
gratitude to Bhagwan to give us such a wonderful tool today. Okay, I'll make it that way, sir.
Yeah.
Sairam. So I would request your student, Sai Gunaranjan, who is one of our team members in the organizing team, to formally thank you. May I request Sai Gunaranjan to come on board, please?
Sairam, sir.
Video.
Sairam, sir.
Sairam, yeah.
Sir, I was taught by you in the year 2006 to 2008, sir.
Yeah, I know. That's right. I just wanted to see your face. That's all.
Sir, thank you for giving us an opportunity to hear you once again after so many years. And you've always been there to guide us during the coursework, with the beginning of the coursework, and even all along the journey. Thank you for taking out the time, and it's been a very wonderful session for sharing your experiences. I think we should have another experience to hear from you on your personal experiences with Bhagwan and Kodaikanal and all of that, for probably if Gopi uncle schedule some time during any of the sessions. So there is a lot of things which sir used to share with us during the Mandir time or during the Radio Sai when we used to interact with him. So we look forward to that opportunity. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming and sharing with us. Sairam.
Sairam. Thank you very much. Sairam.
Visalakshi, we will end the normal way. Before we end with Samastaloka, may I request all of us to put your hands together for this wonderful talk today by Professor Sudhir Vaskar.
Thanks, sir. Thank you so much.
Sai, you want to say something, Sai?
Thank you so much once again, sir, on behalf of the NLP team. We'll conclude the session with Santi Mantra.
Thank you.
Sai Ram.
Thank you so much, Sir Sairam. Good night to everybody.